Ladies and gentlemen, my name is DJ Miles, and I'm here with Infinity Joe to review Netflix's Seis Manos. Stay tuned.
We need to know who killed you.
Before we begin with the video, if you guys can go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel for more anime content, I would greatly appreciate it. Although now, with that being said, I have to ask you, Joe, is this an anime? That's what people have been fighting about with this show more than anything.
Well, if we go by technical terms, most people use anime if they're talking about Japanese, like made in Japan, animated production. This being funded by Viz Productions, who typically publish manga here, and also made by local studio Powerhouse Animation. By technical terms, no. But at the same time, this does have a lot of the same kind of earmarks that if you showed this to someone who doesn't watch anime that often, they might look at it and be like, yeah, that's an anime, what are you talking about? In my opinion, it is a good thing for the matter that for the longest time, we were always getting, American animation was always comedy-focused. We have been seeing change for, the past couple of years, but, generally things were still, either in the kind of kids-safe zone, Avatar, both, Airbender and Legend of Korra, or even stuff like Steven Universe. There's still, in a vein of, we can be a long story, or a long structured story, and we can have action, but it's still in this realm of that things are going to be kind of safe-ish. With things like Castlevania and Seis Manos, this is where they're being we're going to tell an action story, and we're going to actually show a little bit more heavier violence to it.
But this one does ramp it up a bit. So now let's go ahead and kind of talk about this synopsis here for Seis Manos. I've only seen up to 6 episodes. There's 8 in total. Joe has seen it. Anyway, set in a fictional town, San Simon, in the 1970s here in Mexico. We have 3 orphans raised by their kung fu teacher. He gets murdered, and then it's up for the orphans to team up with an American DEA agent and a policewoman to avenge his murder, and that's pretty much it.
They do have an intentional blur filter where they're trying to make it feel like an old-timey film. You'll see the you're looking at a much older film and all that. They don't push it too far. It's just there enough to kind of give you that sense, at least.
I was telling you when I was watching this show, I'm going to just jump right ahead to it. Silencio, I think, is one of the worst characters I have just seen in general.
Yeah.
Definitely maybe top 5 worst characters I've seen in 2019 when it comes to anime/animation stuff. I get it, right? Something happened in his past, right? And we'll get into the spoilers of it, right? Something happened, and he can't talk. And, so a lot of the ways that he has to express himself is, with his actions. But he's raised by a teacher.
Martial art
kung fu teacher, right?
Don't let your rage consume you type situation. Yeah, and therein lies kind of the problem that since Silencio, at the beginning, he can't talk. They show that his tongue was chopped off. And so you can't get a lot of character out of him because he is a silent character. And generally, whenever they show any type of conflict come up, his solution is either run away from it in a rage or go in full-on attack, whatever the situation.
The Mr. Miyagi type, the teacher's talking in the background, and even his siblings are there to be don't kill. Well, he does it more than once, and you'd think he would get the picture of oh, wow, I should actually become more humbled and after doing something atrocious here, right?
Yeah.
No, he just continues to do it, and I don't see any characterization out of him develop.
Yeah.
But I only saw up to 6 episodes, so I can't really comment any further.
Okay. Silencio out of the way, though. I think probably the primary character that I felt was maybe the heart of the entire show was Isabella.
Absolutely.
Yeah. She seems to be the only very sensible one. Her and Gracia seem to be the only two that kind of had things together with this. And Gracia being the cop who was from a small town, a little bummed out that nothing really happens because she's also the first female cop, and of course she's put in charge of what was ostensibly a very sleepy town.
Isabella, like you were mentioning, definitely the most sensible character. I liked her the most because she's the one that actually makes the most sense.
As opposed to the third of the orphan siblings, which was Jesus, who oftentimes, despite being actually physically capable, he's just kind of the oaf of the group because He likes to get drunk and be quote unquote stupefied, as he says.
Yeah, and listen, and here lies the problem. I never laughed at any one of his jokes.
Yeah.
Not once. There's a moment where Jesus is trying to find someone's mother. And then whenever there's like intense action moments, they could never let it sit for like more than 5 seconds without throwing some comedy bit. And then out of nowhere, I swear like Jesus is like Bugs Bunny or something, or Porky Pig, that's like, hey, let me say something goofy right now to break the tension. Yeah. And I'm like, but none of your jokes are funny.
He wasn't exactly a standout character for sure, but at least he did more than what Silencio was going on about.
Yeah. The American DEA agent who's played by Mike Colton.
Yeah,
right?
Brister?
Yeah, Brister.
Yeah.
He's fine, right? But like he has the stereotypical traits of like a Black Dynamite.
Yeah, and
that's a hit or miss.
It's also a matter too, like he's in Mexico, and they've shown that he was at least in Vietnam, but it's like the entire time in Mexico, he's just being just kind of terrible about it. Like, hey, how do you say stuff in Mexican? It's like, we don't speak Mexican. It's like, but how do you say this in Mexican?
Yeah.
Or then also just stuff of like, anytime he doesn't understand something, he's like, man, that's a bunch of voodoo nonsense.
Yeah, which I don't like, because there's several examples early on where he's like, I don't believe in magic. And there's one character that kind of introduces magic in his world where he's like, okay, that was some weird, crazy vision. And in that same episode, and this is episode 2 or 3, that lady does it in a span of like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And he's like, I don't believe in magic, until like the last vision really trips him out. And he's like, damn, okay, I guess I do believe in magic. And then as we go halfway through the series, he's like, this is magic mumbo jumbo. And it's like, what are you talking about? You were convinced that magic existed in episode 2 or 3. Like, it's dumb. I do want to talk about Danny Trejo real quickly. El Baldi. He's fine. Like, he's having fun with the role, right? He's given the villain henchman traits, right?
No, he very much comes off as like a villain you would have seen from like a beat 'em up game, 80s or 90s, like something out of like Streets of Rage or something, because he's just this big, physically powerful dude. Being evil is just like second nature to him. Like,
even when you learn more of his backstory, it actually becomes a little bit more compelling, right? Than the one-dimensional note that he pretty much is throughout the entire story. You know, because I know a lot of Spanish culture and all that stuff. There's a lot of references I understood, even though I'm not Mexican, but I was a little perplexed as to why they wouldn't show English subtitles for certain things that the average Caucasian or people who isn't Hispanic wouldn't know because of this, right? Like some of the inside jokes.
Anytime we see the characters, they're all speaking in English, even if there's like no one who speaks English around them. Just the whole like foreign country, but this is being viewed on this channel, so of course like everyone's just gonna speak like the native language for the viewing audience. But then it's stuff like, you know, there's a scene of like a person and they have the news going on, and they're just speaking completely in Spanish, but I don't know anything of what they were saying, and I don't even know if it had anything of relevance to it or not. But to me, I felt like, you know, put that dude in English or just have some subtitles going on at the same time.
Here's my overall thoughts. I know I've been super critical and negative on it, but I like what was given to me. Like the 1970s, like Mexico location. It's not for me, but I know so many people that would appreciate it.
Yes.
I just wish these characters were better written. Like, I don't mind Jesus, Silencio, and Isabella as our protagonists. The adventures they get themselves involved in, right? You know, they bring some fantastical elements, right? Where there's a scene where someone goes on a mushroom trip. I like what they do with the visuals. I like that Blumhouse style, right? It might be a hit or miss for some people, but I can see it work. The animation looks fine too, right? Like, you know, you can look at this and this is kind of like a Jackie Chan adventure meets Boondocks type of thing, and you can tell this same studio production that did Castlevania, you can see some of their stuff incorporated onto this, so that works. However, the overall story for me, I just found very dull at times, although I will say the second half picked up a lot more than the first half, but I can't excuse just how lame and one-noted a lot of these characters are.
Yeah.
Jesus, he's very hit or miss, but he was never funny to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, oh, people who like Avatar The Last Airbender, that's the type of humor that Jesus does, But how can a 12-year-old watch this if it's so gratuitous and violent, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's not to stop kids playing Grand Theft Auto anyway, but you know.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying here. It's like I can't really recommend it to them because it's more violent.
Yeah.
But for someone like us who's much older, I didn't get much enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a solid 5. I really can't go any higher than that.
Yeah.
I once again, animation looks fine, location is fine, story is okay. I just wish our characters were more interesting.
Yeah, and that's completely understandable. And I do agree with you that the first few episodes is kind of very sluggish. It does pick up, though, a little bit near towards the end. And, like, their final episode did do some interesting stuff that, if they do get a second season, I am willing to give it a shot to check it out. The only things, like, I did have more of a gripe with outside of what the stuff that you mentioned, the audio could be a little bit more fine-tuned. There were times where characters they were kind of mumbling their lines a little bit, or that it wasn't quite clear. And the animation was fine, but sequencing, like the fight choreography is really good. There were moments, though, where the animation did kind of like get kind of choppy looking in parts. And granted, that's more of a technical thing. And it's not something that's terrible, because I understand what they're working with, but it is something that just kind of bugs me a little bit. I would say I give this maybe like a 7.5 range.
Oh, okay. Let us know what you guys think about it. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Do you guys think I'm a villain here? Do you think I'm crazy? Who knows? But that was the end of our review. My name is DJ Miles.
I'm Infinity Joe, and you could find me on Twitter and Instagram at InfinityJoe_art if you'd like to see my illustrations.
And as I always say, to be continued, take care.